Electric vehicles are supposed to change the car industry, but they forgot to mention that they're also highly combustible. That's right, EVs are catching on fire more and more often. These fires are not just happening at charging stations or in parking lots, but even where the cars are made. This is causing big safety problems everywhere. The people who make EVs are surprised because their cars are catching fire in large numbers, and it seems like no one is doing anything to stop it. So let's take a look at why this is happening and how often these electric fires are occurring. Let's get into it. Number 7. Electric vehicles are catching fire all over the world. EVs keep burning without any clear reason, and the people who make them are not happy. This is because these fires not only hurt their good name, but also make new customers stay away. These fires show that more research is needed, which means that more money needs to be spent to solve the problems that come with these fires. It seems like EV makers still don't know how to handle these fire problems. So fires keep happening, not only with people who own them, but also in the places where the cars are made. For example, last December at a GM factory, a battery fire caused $1 million in damages and needed almost 100 firefighters to put it out. Fires also keep happening at charging stations. Just a few weeks ago in Oslo, Norway, an electric bus caught fire while parked at a public charging station. This fire caused a lot of damage to nearby buildings, making people worry even more about using EVs in busy areas. Now, before we continue, if you're enjoying this video, do well to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to show your support. If you've done that, let's continue. Number 6. Parking garages pose the biggest challenge. We can talk about what happened in March in Colorado when an electric car fire turned into a big garage fire. Firefighters had to use a lot of resources to control the flames, and it was pure luck that no one got hurt. This was one of many cases showing how hard it is to deal with EV fires in homes. The same thing happened a month later in Shanghai, China, where several electric cars caught fire in a parking garage, causing a lot of damage. We also have the Hackensack fire. Over the last 10 years, electric cars have improved a lot in how they perform, how far they can go, how fast they charge, and how easy they are to use. But the main safety problem is still there, and it seems we still don't know how to fix it. This problem is electric cars catching fire, and with so many fires happening in recent years, the one in Hackensack is just another example of the problems with electric cars today. So this is what happened. A smoke detector went off in a Hackensack parking garage early in the morning in March last year. So when firefighters came, they had to look for where the smoke was coming from. They found an electric Audi Q5 on fire, so they started putting out the fire right away. But it wasn't regular firefighting. It took more than 7 hours and thousands of gallons of water to cool down the battery and make sure it wouldn't catch fire again. The reason is simple. Batteries are made to store a lot of energy, and when they catch fire, that energy gets released. This involves chemical processes that make the battery keep making its own heat. This means that the fire's temperature is much higher, and the fire lasts much longer. Number 5. EV fires are actually very dangerous. According to experts, the temperature of a burning electric vehicle can reach 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is nearly 2,800 degrees Celsius. Internal combustion cars, when on fire, rarely exceed over 800 degrees Celsius. So it's no surprise that cooling an EV battery takes so much time. In this case, it took more than 7 hours of constant water flow. Even with all that water, it's still impossible to completely put out the flame. Instead, firefighters can only control it because EVs burn to the ground anyway. The best they can do with this huge effort is to keep the surrounding areas safe. One problem with plug-in vehicles is that the battery is usually located under the cabin, or about 5 or 6 inches from the ground, and it's covered with super strong and durable materials. So it's not easy for firefighters to reach and cool down during a fire. Experts say that these fire incidents are rare, but in reality, they are much more dangerous. Number 4. EV fires are hard to deal with. If we look at studies and data, EV fires might not seem very concerning at first. Most of the data shows that the number of EVs catching fire is proportionally lower compared to internal combustion cars. For example, one study from Australia looked at all vehicle fire incidents between 2010 and 2020, and found that 0.1% of combustion cars caught fire during that time, compared to just 0.12% of EVs. According to the Swedish Contingencies Agency, Combustion cars produce 68 fires per 100,000 vehicles, while EVs produced 3.8 fires per 100,000 vehicles. But things look very different once you take a closer look at the issue. EVs might not catch fire as often, but when they do, it is much harder to deal with. When an EV catches fire, the fire is usually much hotter and lasts longer. This makes it much more dangerous and difficult for firefighters to control and put out the fire. The high temperatures and the way the battery is built make it hard for firefighters to reach the fire and cool it down. So even though EVs don't catch fire as often, the fires they do have are much more serious and harder to manage. This makes EV fires a big safety concern that needs more attention and better solutions. Number 3. Thermal runaway. There is a condition called thermal runaway. It's a kind of a chemical reaction that makes the fire keep going on its own. In simple terms, heat releases energy that creates even more heat, which raises the temperature a lot. Then there's the problem of the fire starting again, even long after it was put out. One study found that 13% of EV fires experience reignition, and there was even one case where a fire restarted 68 days after the first fire. The battery pack casing makes it hard for firefighters to reach the battery. Even when they manage to get water directly to the fire, EVs need much more water than normal cars. For example, at Nissan's Tennessee headquarters, it took over 45,000 gallons of water to put out an EV fire. This is much more than what is usually needed to put out a fire in a regular car. This shows how difficult and dangerous EV fires can be, needing a lot more effort and resources to control and extinguish. Number 2. China has the most EV fires. China is leading the way in the electric car revolution, with the most EVs on the road and the most advanced charging infrastructure. Because of this, China has the most frequent electric fire incidents. These incidents happen so often that it's hard to keep track of them. Fires occur all over China every day. Since there is no recent data, we can look at official sources from 3 years ago, which reported over 3,000 fire incidents in 2021 alone. After that, Chinese officials stopped sharing the numbers, probably for a good reason. Considering that the number of EVs has grown a lot in the last 3 years, we can only imagine how many incidents are happening right now. EVs now make up a third of the new car market, with over 8.4 million electric cars made every year. So it's easy to assume that fire incidents have become more frequent, and that this might be why there is no longer any official data available. Number 1. Spontaneous fire is still the biggest concern. Even if we ignore thermal runaway and the fact that EV fires are much harder to deal with, there is one thing that worries every potential customer. Have you ever heard of a combustion car catching fire all by itself? With electric cars, this is pretty common and is a big safety concern in residential areas. It's not just about crashes or problems at charging stations. It's about the fact that they can catch fire even when they are just sitting in a garage. It doesn't have to be plugged in. It can catch fire anyway because of several design flaws that makers still haven't fixed. There are many cases of EVs catching fire, and some are so serious that they are now a big safety risk in many areas. Remember the cargo ship carrying 4,000 vehicles, including 500 EVs, that caught fire near the Dutch coast? The fire spread quickly, tragically killing one crew member, and the ship sank, causing an environmental threat to the area around the Frisian Islands and the Wadden Sea. In many parts of the world, it's impossible to take an EV on a ferry. Many owners choose to keep theirs on the street rather than in a garage. Things have gotten so bad that automakers are advising owners to park their EVs in open areas far away from other cars. Electric cars may promise a greener future, but fire is still the biggest challenge. Safety measures don't seem to improve as fast as automakers are making more EVs. It looks like no one is taking this issue seriously or investing in research and development to solve the problems. So, for those of us living in crowded areas, the only thing we can do is be very careful and watchful. Alright guys, we've come to the end of this video, and if you enjoyed it, do well to click on the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to check out other videos on our playlist. We've got some amazing content for you, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in our next video.